Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door is an easy game, and that's why I love it so much. Between how you can build your stats to suit your experience, playstyle, or insatiable thirst for destruction, there's something here for everyone. I'd elaborate further, but you clicked this video for a reason. I also am not good at intros. I want to play this game as if I didn't have any of those options. Max HP, 10. Max FP, 5. Max BP, 99. But no badges that cause BP can be equipped. Except Peekaboo. I like Peekaboo, it's convenient. Anyways, if you were wondering if this challenge is possible, since I will also not be allowing myself to superguard or buy items from shops outside of being absolutely required, the answer is yes, it is. So if the answer is all you care about, first off, thanks for clicking the video. Second, be sure to like the video and subscribe for more. And thirdly, the truth is, I made a video on this exact challenge literally years ago, with the only difference being that I'm banning super guards as an additional rule, and this is in fact the second time I've ever tried, just the first for the remake. In any case, I hope you enjoy my offering. As for the rules of this challenge, they are as follows. Our adventure starts like any other. We receive the magical map in the mail, reach Rogueport, and aid the ambushed Aglet as Lord Crumb attempts to coerce her. Without superguarding, this fight can only be won in 3 turns, which is fairly standard. Jump, hammer, whatever you prefer. Either way, he's no match for us. We're shortly after bestowed our first partner in battle, Goombella. Ordinarily, she's a formidable friend that we get to really boost the power of later in the game, but she's purely baggage in this challenge. Only 1 damage per hit with no hope of extra power and a pitiful 10 HP is not going to see her get far at all. She is good enough to help out early game, but much like the views on my channel videos, it won't take long before she falls off. We can't all be Fat Guy Bringle or even Coop after all. Strategic Goomba wrangling later saw us beat the subterranean thugs in short order with headbunks and hammers, and we're set on our way to the Thousand-Year Door for the first time. We also collect a couple of items, a mushroom and a fire flower. I'm gonna want to hold on to the former, and you'll see why once we reach the first boss. Until then, Blooper is a thing. Though with its low attack power and lacking presence of danger, we turn the squid inside out and send it packing. With no real incentive to fight enemies, I just try to avoid encounters wherever possible. However, before venturing into Rawk Fortress, I do need to exhaust all my available power blocks on the enemies guarding the gates. Without BP, we don't have the option to power smash, and as a result, this is about the only way forward unless I wanted to fish for hazards to assist. It's all around no big deal whatsoever, neither are the fuzzies we meet in Rawk Fortress. Nothing we're forced to fight actually has an attack power higher than 1, and that remains the case until we enter Hooktail Castle. So let's fast forward to where we recruit Koops. Another ordinarily incredible partner is unfortunately shafted due to the conditions of the challenge. 2 attack is at least usable against foes of defense, but it won't take long before he too starts to fall off. He at least does prove valuable for Red Bones and makes the fight fairly painless. Scaling the Castle of Hooktail gives us some valuable loot that we sadly can't use very much of, but the mushrooms will be coming in handy for Hookertail herself. I could fight her with attack effects G, but I have a death wish. I don't just want to beat her, I want to humiliate her. So I went at her with nothing but mushrooms and Sweet Treat, trying to win using just Koops and Mario. And you know what? I got my kisser kicked! Sad thing is, though, that all of the fire flowers I had could have been used, and it could have salvaged my first attempt, since 3 damage per use is a pretty big chunk of her 10 HP during her second phase, but I don't know, I probably want them for later, but no, I really didn't. This game gives you so many items in the remake, it's not even funny. Just use the fire flowers during phase 2, you won't miss them. It took me 2 attempts to win, but I really only needed 1. Also, the reason I have a power block in my inventory despite already using all that I could get is that the power block was dropped by a Dull Bones fight just after the Paper Mode curse. I don't plan on using it though, I actually want to limit my items to what I'm guaranteed to get, so don't worry about that. Anyway, we get Earth Tremor as our newest special move after beating Hooktail, which is a good move, capable of doing 6 damage to all enemies on screen for 2 units of star power. It's here I also realized I never mentioned Sweet Treat, so I'll go ahead and do so here. It's a move that for 1 SP restores HP and FP equal to how many you can hit as they fall from the top of the screen. Great skill for sure. Definitely used it a fair few times against Hook or Toe back when she was conscious. Accompanied by my friends with all benefits from here on out, the Bogley Woods have very little to offer in terms of challenge. The three Shadow Sisters are immediately dusted by Power Shell and Mario's jump before getting dunked on by Earth Tremor, putting an end to this triad that will be fully realized come Chapter 4. We soon also meet Flurry, who is the last of the partners I would say offer very little of value to us. She's basically Hammer Throw, except she can't pierce defense. Nuff said. It's more noteworthy that Mario gets his Super Boots now, as his jump is now stronger, and we get a new move that'll be super good throughout the rest of the game. That being said, I did lose to Magnus once I reached him, but that was just because I heard you get extra items if you do. And yeah, that's an additional Fire Flower and Super Mushroom that'll probably rot in my storage. The boss himself though was a cakewalk. Flurry's above average HP makes taking the X-Fists off a lot less of a priority, as she just tanks the damage while Mario can brute force of spin jumps to quickly put an end to the scrappy junk heap. And with that, we receive Clock Out, which is a move capable of freezing our foes in time. This move could definitely be useful later, since without Super Guards, our options for reducing damage are a lot more limited. With so many enemies we can generally just breathe on and split them into chunks, a lot of Chapter 3 offers very little of note. Goombas? KP Koopas? Pokies we just Power Shell and Hammer, nothing special here. Dull Bones? Spike Stormies and Earth Tremor, Handed Overs get Earth Tremor and Power Shelled. Really, just about everything we could fight in the minor leagues will fall victim to Earth Tremor and maybe Power Shell, they're bulky enough. Nothing I would deem deserving if anything more than a burp of commentary. But things do become a lot more interesting once our Yoshi egg hatches and we're introduced to Gary. Oh yeah, now we're talking. Despite still having a low HP stat on the level of Goombellas, Gary hits at least twice as often with 4 hits on his ground pound, and becomes downright lethal once we get the Crystal Star here. Moving on. Red Spike Tops get gulped twice, which I use Sloot Tree to help along. Bristles need an Earth Tremor, and we're given our Super Hammer. Cool. Well, that's unfortunate. Good thing I'm close to leveling up anyway, and Goombella can help me to pick up KOs. The Fuzz? Magic Koopa Masters can be dangerous, but we just attack one at a time and the fight goes largely fine. Then we see Bowser, who's a pretty basic fight at the end of the day. I brought Koops out here to try and show out that he can guard Bowser's ground pound and still get flipped, but I guess Bowser didn't feel like it. Oh well, makes the fight easier for me. Fights from here are actually fairly challenging though. Crawdaddy can 2-hit KO Mario if he wanted to, but he just kept attacking Koops, who can take an additional hit thanks to his defense. I'm able to beat him before Mario gets hit even once. Though I decide to appeal first since SP is pretty valuable. For the bros, I wanted to just Earth Tremor and Power Shell, but Grubba had other plans. Hashtag blame Grubba. So why instead just have Mario focus on support while Gary and Koops do all the work? Chomp Country? But there was no easy way past the Koopinator. Without a PAL block, we're not going anywhere fast. And if he wanted to, he can nearly 1-hit KO Mario by charging and using Power Shell. I could have tried the fight regardless, but we had to win the fight in 5 turns or less, which is pretty much impossible, even with items given our resources. So I had no choice but to... Before I forget, there are items to pick up while in Chapter 3. Among them, you can get a live stream in the abandoned Major League locker room, which is permanently missable, so you better get it while you can. We then encountered Rawk, who was actually a fun boss to take on. With Flurry as my partner of choice, I went in using a Volt Shroom so that the Hawk couldn't rock Mario early on. Both of his attacks are limited to the front if he takes recoil, and I'm not going to be using the Volt Shroom later. It really only makes sense. He's able to attack Mario directly when he starts flying slamming, but he still only tries to attack Flurry, and it isn't long before his prop drop starts seeing some action. Nice how the remake makes this actually possible to time as opposed to on GameCube, and so I can actually guard adequately. A few more body slams and jumps from there puts this poultry under too much pressure and his goose is cooked. It's the first boss that felt like I had to think, and that is something I appreciate. And the last boss is Macho Grubba. For a while anyway. So this boss was actually pretty tense. Macho Grubba has a reputation for being extraordinarily easy to super guard, but we can't do that. And his damage output is actually pretty hefty when the most you can do against him is guard. Jumps and ground pounds are good damage dealers, but we won't always be able to use them if Grubba boosts his attack. We're basically forced to heal if that happens for fear of being KO'd by a second helping, which is honestly pretty scary. It gets worse when his HP hits half, because then any amount of damage we take can lead to a lethal second hit, as charge gives him just enough extra oomph to guarantee a knockout. Basically, this fight slowed us down to a crawl. It may not be a bad idea given that to use your slow shroom here to slow Grubba's damage down. Despite this, I do win on my first attempt. Whether it was deserved though is a different story. Before finishing him off, a Shy Guy dropped a bucket on his head, making him dizzy. This ended up being important because I miscounted how much damage I'd do with a spin jump and ground pound, and Grubba had 1 HP left at the end. His following attack being an attack boosted body slam would have ended Mario for sure, but being dizzy, he missed and it allowed me to salvage this blunder despite hanging a checkmate in one move. We're able to secure our 3rd Crystal Star and gain Power Lift as our latest special move. And it's here that the game just falls. Power Lift on GameCube is a good move for sure, but it's inconsistent how much you'll be able to get out of it. You're lucky to see +3 in even 1 set, let alone 2, and if your luck is particularly bad, you may be stuck with only as much as +1. On Switch, not only do you need to hit less arrows to boost your stats, you need 4 as opposed to 5. But even if one set is lagging behind in strength, the game will go out of its way to help you build it up once you hit +4 in either attack or defense. Because of this, you can reliably see +4 attack and +4 defense every time. And the original game really wasn't built around this being repeatedly doable, so just about every boss between here and Chapter 7 just crumbles. I feel like given this, I wanted to try the Pit of 100 Trials now, so I gave it a whirl. But since I know I can't actually beat it without supercars or shop items, I suspended both of those rules so that I could go in adequately prepared. I might talk about how that challenge went if you're interested, but let's keep on the adventure we already started for now. So with Power Lift, just look at this. With +4 defense, Dupless can't even scratch me with his basic attack, and this fact carryovers in the rematch where my likewise underpowered partners are hard-pressed to do anything to me or Vivian when under the effects of Power Lift. It's a complete and utter blowout. Speaking of Vivian, she is a better battler relative to the challenge we're doing, but her skills are much more niche compared to Yoshi, who can be buffed to high heaven from Power Lift, or the next part of We Befriend. Sad to think she's just largely outclassed though. However, she will be a big help in the Pit of 100 Trials, so that's nice. Anyways, Art Attack is a good move that we get for finishing this chapter, but it's unlikely that I'll be using it much on the account of Power Lift and Earth Tremor existing. Embers aside, Cortez largely falls in the same situation as Dupless did just the previous chapter. Power Lift, Yoshi can then take out half of his HP in a single turn, while Cortez stabbing us is about as effective as trying to poke a straw through solid concrete. We don't take a single point of damage. Lord Crump goes largely identically, except we actually have to guard to not take damage. But even if we didn't, is 1 point really something to be worried over? I don't think so. Also, Sweet Feast is a move I don't care about. For that matter, neither is anything in the SS Express. I bring my Earthquake from Twilight Trail on board the train to deal with Smorg, but otherwise, no other items are needed. With the aid of our Ultra Boots, we can beat Smorg after a single Power Lift where both Yoshi and Mario hit for 28 damage altogether on the first turn. Then ignoring the Claw, they just finish Smorg off with another dose of going down on them, just ravaging them like a lion does a gazelle. And that's Chapter 6. Showstopper is also available for us as our most recent special move, but it's not worth talking about outside the Pit of 100 Trials, so we'll wait until then to talk about it. You don't see Bomb Squad very often, but I'm such a Scrooge on my items, I actually used it against Magnus too. After the next turn where I Power Lift and I get to work, the Bomb Squad blows out the X punches as they come out, and I'm just cruising with bombs and jumps. What's really nice is that my added defense allows my HP to actually last for the whole fight. Considering the attacks of Crump's arsenal like the audience cannon, it ends up being super important. I do end up needing to use Power Lift twice, but hey, a small price to pay for victory. Especially when your SP gets maxed out after you end the chapter. Oh yeah, I forgot about Bobbery. He's got the highest HP of any partner in the game, and good power behind his bomb attack. So he's a good pick against bosses with high defense, and is less afraid of piercing attacks, which we'll be seeing a lot of in the next chapter, since 20 HP will last much longer than 10. We also gained the special move Supernova, which when fully powered up, deals 15 damage to all enemies on the field. Pretty awful use of SP, but then it gonna stop my brain from looking at numbers and think, big good. Anyway, here is where we see why banning super guards in challenges is a less than ideal idea for more challenging challenge runs. There's a lot of good items in Chapter 8, but not a lot of space. If you saw my storage, you'd think I was really stubborn with my items, but I just never really needed them. Anyways, Dark Bones is a supernova, bomb, and hammer swing away from Oblivion. As for Gloomtail, the problem with fighting him and most bosses in this chapter is they can use attacks capable of piercing my defense. So Power Lift isn't going to save me. And with a limited number of boost sheets at my disposal, which are much better saved for the final boss, and somehow less available life streams than on GameCube, there's really only one viable way forward here, and it's Clock Out. It stops the target from being able to attack for 3 whole turns. I could have gotten away with using it only once if I cared about thinking, but as Robin Williams once said,
"This is where careers come to die!"
And I'm about ready to retire. So yeah, Power Lift, Clock Out, we ball. We also rematched the 3-1 shadows, and I chose to lead with Vivian. Why? I have no idea. She's not going to be doing any fighting, that's for dang sure. She used the Sleepy Sheep, knocked the trio out cold, and made way for Yoshi, who proceeded to help Mario beat the gas lights out of them. And with the stage wanting to get in on the action, there was just nothing they could really do. Duelist was able to get a few licks in, but when you choose to take Yoshi's form, you're already doing something very, very wrong. You're not even good enough to be my fake. We then make it to Grota's, Bowser, and Kamikoopa. These 3 bosses make the following 2 fights one hell of a time. Grotas himself actually demonstrates pretty well why status elements ended up being so important prior in this chapter. I did try to fight him fair and square, but his attacks all ignoring defense made it unrealistic, as boosting my defense with Power Lift really only negated what his Grotas X's were capable of. Grotas himself being left unchecked, I was not going to win, and he can easily overpower me. So using Clock Out, I do end up having the means to take him out. I also just had plenty of attack items, so it really wasn't a problem to keep his defense down so Mario could run the big boss over. This all being said, you're probably wondering what I used Vivian for if she wasn't going to be doing much in the way of attacking outside of items. Well, I ended up wanting her Veil move for Bowser and Cammy. Bowser's Fire Breath alongside Cammy's Magikoopa Blast both do a combined total of 10 damage even if guarded. Bad luck would see Mario KO'd from the first turn, and Veil allows me to avoid that, awful as the move may be. I can then Power Lift and get him some damage with Spring Jump and Cammy. It is still possible that I'm knocked out this turn, assuming Bowser and Cammy attack Mario every single time within the first 3 turns, but that's a lot less likely being closer to 3 coin flips as opposed to only 1. A lot more favorable as Cammy can actually use status moves after the first turn, but you get the idea. Keeping up the assault with Vivian feeding Mario a Super Mushroom allowed the opportunity to appear where I'm able to take Cammy out, forcing Bowser to come at me alone. And here's where the fight got more manageable. Bowser is still a danger and a powerhouse in his own right. The difference is that now, he no longer has a source of healing. Vivian wouldn't be able to last long with her lower HP, so I call for Bobbery to help. His higher HP has an obvious advantage, and I actually struggle less with his stylish movement attacking, so I just prefer him in general for battle. It looks to not matter much at first, seeing that I got a star bingo that refilled my SP gauge, but with how this fight proceeded to go, I don't know if I would have won without it. Bowser just used his Fire Breath more than any other attack he had, didn't you know? So I actually was forced to Sweet Treat repeatedly so Mario would stay alive. My healing items only could go so far when my max HP is only 10. Not even something like a slow shroom or couple's kick would work when all it would change is Mario taking exactly enough damage to fall to Bowser's fire. And so this fight just really ended up dragging on where I would attack with Bobbery, Sweet Treat repeatedly because my health was pretty much always low, and just relying on bingos to not run out prematurely since there's no shot I can rely solely on Sweet Treat when SP runs out so quickly in this game. I do end up coming out of this the winner, but it really did feel like all luck, even though I wasn't always lucky. Finally, for the Shadow Queen, I have decided to admit defeat and become her servant. I love how Vivian starts off looking worried, puts on a smile, trusting me to do the right thing, and then just becomes utterly shocked at seeing me decide, nah, she can step on me. But yeah, that wouldn't be a very satisfying end to this video, so I went at her with Yoshi and got to work. Power lift, a bunch of ground pounds, art attack ended up being pretty handy, and I ended up beating the first phase with Mario Life Shroom used. Phase 2, I boost cheat Mario, and I'm able to enter it with Bobbery because of his HP being so high. Unfortunately, Shadow Queen was eating her brain food lunches or something because she only ever seemed to have it up for Bobbery and actually costed me a life shroom. That sucks. But being real, odds are I wouldn't be winning this fight without a lot of luck anyway, so being punished for thinking smart here while annoying isn't quite the worst thing ever either. Going into the final phase, I just knew. We're using Thunder Rages. Otherwise, there's a very high likelihood that we just won't be able to win, as the Shadow Queen can heal off of us while attacking, and we lack a way of countering that. Even with Power Lift, she can just knock us out from full and our buffs will die with us regardless of life shrooms. Clock Out wasn't working at first, but a stopwatch on Bobbery's turn does immobilize the Shadow Queen, giving me an opening to usher in Yoshi, Power Lift, and kinda just bury her. I won't deny that it's a cheap strategy, but when it's literally the only one that can work, the end justifies the means. And I had to do this twice, the second time being Clock Out actually working. With her defeated, we do come out winning, but at what cost? Well, speaking personally, I'm not exactly satisfied with the video ending here, so I decided to try to post-game content. Thing is though, I actually beat the pit of 100 trials before going after the Shadow Queen. Not much of value to share though. With the star powers I had available, most fights evolved into Showstopper to win as quickly as possible, alongside the occasional Earth Tremor and Power Lift so that I burned through my SP more slowly. And really deep into pit, Supernova was my go-to since odds are I was leveling up anyway. For that matter, Showstopper is a special move that has a chance to OKO enemies. Some are more vulnerable to it than others, but it's generally reliable for most enemies in the pit of 100 trials. Upon reaching Bonetail though, I had to drop my ban on Super Guards. There is just no way I can reliably win having only 10 HP max when she can 2-hit KO me with her breath. 200 HP is just way too much to power through. And with Super Guards, she was a pushover because I've completed the pit before starting Chapter 4 earlier already, so I had a chance to become more comfortable with the timing. Something funny that did happen though was I miscalculated how much damage I'd do when I thought I could beat her on what I thought was the last turn. And under the effects of Power Lift, Spring Jump and Bomb are just 1 damage shy from ending the fight. Deja vu. However, because Bonetail didn't heal even once before now, she chooses this moment to restore 20 HP, and a bomb followed up by Supernova does exactly 21 damage, ending the fight with me not losing a single life shroom all pit, and not missing a single Super Guard when attempted, so that's really funny. I then loitered around Roadport until getting confirmation that Wacka could be fought, and being unable to Super Guard, you'd think his 10 plus damage Wacka bumps would be trouble for me, but Vivian's Veil just hard counters him. You spawn some bumps on Wacka, Veil on Vivian's turn, come back up, he damages himself to spawn more bumps, attack. It's honestly a wonder how exploitable this fight is. We win without even getting hit. Finally there's Sprint Smush, and not being able to Super Guard him makes this fight particularly bad. We'll lose our life streams to him charging up and battling us with some DPZ instant transmission kicks, but the situation becomes much worse once his HP drops low enough to where our attacks just don't do anything. You're supposed to Super Guard in order to make him vulnerable to attacks that reduce his defense to 0, but I can't. But he's susceptible to Showstopper, so I used it once and boom, we lost and I won. Thank you to my channel members, which I'm putting on screen right now, and I guess I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.